I'll keep that in mind, I said. It is not a joke. I know, they studied me for a beat that felt like a test I didn't want to fail. Then they nodded, crest rising half a finger width. We were not friends. We might be, later. The wall kept being a wall. That was its job. Mine was to show up on time. I left the north wing as the lights shifted toward evening spectrum. Drones traced clean lines along the edges of gardens designed for 6 gravities and 4 photosynthetic chemistries, pruning with sound. My dorm pod adjusted to human measurements as I stepped in. Chair height, desk angle, bed firmness, like a room trying to guess me. I ate, reviewed the entry packet, set alarms, and laid out my uniform so the morning wouldn't need decisions. When I closed my eyes, I saw names. 847 failures like stars, distant and fixed. I counted them until sleep found me. Underestimation is a gift. You just have to spend it. The simulation pod waited like an open mouth, lined with cables instead of teeth. I'd seen pictures in the orientation briefings. Sleek, ergonomic, tailored to each species. The reality looked more like a dissected insect. Instructor Cole stood beside it, all 4 arms folded, 2 eyes tracking me and the other 2 flicking toward the observation window. At least 20 cadets crowded behind the glass, translators blinking like tiny beacons. Betting pools drew spectators faster than lectures. Cadet marks, Cole said. You may remove the jacket. The neural interface compensates poorly for fabric interference. I unzipped the stiff uniform top, tossed it over a chair, and stepped into the pod. The seat adjusted itself with a faint whir, trying to match a Tessic spinal alignment, before surrendering and reshaping for human anatomy. I grinned despite myself. Do not grin, Cole said. That expression is rarely associated with success. I'm redefining success, I said. They didn't reply. The restraint harness lowered, soft but absolute. Cold discs pressed against my temples, and the air filled with the sterile bite of disinfectant. Through the glass, I saw Cole raise one lower hand. Lights dimmed. The lid sealed, then the world vanished. When it came back, it wasn't gentle. I stood on the bridge of a starship that was already dying. Red alarms painted the consoles in streaks of color. The deck shuddered beneath my boots. Voices cascaded through the comm network. Medical reports, reactor warnings, hull breach counts. Someone shouted something about the children in civilian quarters. The scenario didn't want subtlety. It wanted guilt as a training tool. The ship's name appeared in the upper left of my vision. Prosperity's March. Crew 280. Civilians 4,700, life pods 17, capacity 60 each. Even before I ran the math, I knew it was the same unsolvable equation every commander here had faced. 5,000 lives, 1,000 seats, 4,000 doomed. The scenario's first weapon was arithmetic. A holographic Tessic XO appeared beside me. Programmed authority in motion. Captain, enemy vessels have dropped from FTL, 6 cruisers, class unknown. Shields offline, drives unresponsive. Impact in 40 seconds. I tried the basics first. Engineering restart jump core. Negative, came the answer. Reactor containment breached. We lose the ship if we try. Weapons. Point defense only, Captain. Debris sweepers. So far it matched everything Cole had warned about. Clever geometry, no resource trick, just inevitability. XO. Open a channel, I said. Communication arrays failing. Then patch me to life pod control. The voices in my ear multiplied. Evacuation teams. Panicked crew, the dull thud of impact vibrations. I set evacuation to full priority, redistributed power to the pod ejection rails, and sealed bulkheads by section. The first casualties blinked across the display. Hull breaches in cargo and med bays. It felt real enough to smell, which meant the neural feedback was running at maximum. Fidelity. Launch sequence initiated, said the XO. Estimated survivors 1,000. 20, the same number every cadet. Reached before collapse. I'd studied enough Confederation history to understand the pedagogy. The broken gate wasn't about strategy. It was a ritualized failure. You learn to calculate who dies so you can keep functioning afterward. Noble, efficient, horrifying. Captain, the XO said, enemy charging weapons again. How long? 20 seconds. I stared at the display. The simulation offered no miracle vectors. I could withdraw to safety and end it. Let the loss register, accept the lesson. Instead, I opened the maintenance panel for the comm array, not the control console. The raw code access buried 3 menus down, the one meant for technicians with authorization levels I didn't have. The interface fought back, flashing red text across my vision. Access restricted, override denied. Override anyway, I said. The XO hesitated. Captain? Protocol update, execute. A thin tone confirmed entry. My heart kicked up. More adrenaline than I expected from a fake war. The code scrolled fast. Dense Tessic syntax with human translation comments tacked on later. I'd learned enough programming during flight training to spot patterns. And more importantly, GAP's legacy architecture. No security patch since the ship's construction date, 60 years prior. The programmers had left a maintenance port that bypassed command authorization to run diagnostics remotely. No one ever erased it because no one thought it mattered. That was my door. 10 seconds, the XO said. I hijacked the array, rewired transmission loops, and started flooding every frequency with structured EM interference designed to look like a reactor core in overload, a pulse pattern that screamed we're about to explode. Signal transmitting, said the XO. You are jamming our own channels. Good, I said. That means they'll hear it too. Outside the viewport, the enemy ships hesitated. 6 sharp blips on the tactical screen broke formation, sensors spiking as they tried to parse the false alarm. The simulation's AIs were programmed for self-preservation. They'd retreat from an imminent reactor blast long enough to reassess. 10 seconds, maybe 12. That was enough. I rerouted the debris lasers toward the main reactor exhaust, set firing sequence to overload, and locked the course away from the fleeing pods. Captain? The XO asked. You're going to… Yeah, I said. That's the plan. Recommend evacuation. No time. Recommend… Withdrawal. No room. I fired. The ship came, apart with a violence that the neural interface translated into light and vibration but no pain. The Prosperity's march turned into a directional bomb, the shockwave flinging the life pods clear of the kill zone. Radiation flares bloomed across the sensor grid like dying suns. For a moment, the enemy ships scattered, their formation unraveling under the algorithmic panic I'd induced. Then the simulation shuddered. Error codes bloomed in 3 languages. Event tree invalid reference loop detected. Terminating instance. I tried to query whether the pods had reached safe distance, but the visual feed broke into white static. The air vanished, and my heartbeat turned into the only sound. When the pod lid opened, I gasped real air again. Dry, metallic, tasting of ozone. The lights were painfully bright. Outside, a wall of faces pressed against the glass, translators flickering like candlelight. The entire observation deck had filled. Cole stood directly in front, still as sculpture. I unbuckled, climbed out, and swayed until gravity felt stable. My skin prickled with cold sweat where the interface pads had been. What? Cole said carefully. Did you do to my simulation? I won, I said. The translation lags in the observation room turned my answer into a chain reaction, 6 versions of the word rippling through speakers. Cole's upper eyes narrowed. You crashed the system. After I won, you destroyed the ship. I destroyed it strategically. The civilians got out. You cannot prove that. The logs can. The simulation did not account for self-destruction as victory. Then the simulation had a blind spot. The silence stretched, long enough to make me think they'd escort me out in restraints. Then a new voice cut through it. A calm, layered tone, soft like wind through crystal. The VIN Administrator Headmaster Chves stepped forward from the back of the crowd. Their sash shimmered faintly under the lights. Cadet marks, they said. What species designed the broken gate? Tessic, I said, nodding toward Cole. Correct. And Tessic doctrine prizes direct confrontation and structural integrity. It assumes opponents share those values. It assumes honesty in conflict. I lied to the enemy, I said, and blew myself up. You exploited their assumptions. That's war, isn't it? Chves tilted their head slightly. Perhaps. Yet the exercise was never meant to be winnable. Then it failed its purpose. Everything's winnable once you find the wrong question to ask. A low murmur rippled through the onlookers. Cole's mandibles flexed twice before they spoke. You weaponized deceit. That is sabotage, not command. You said nobody passes, I replied. You never said how winning had to look. The room's air system hummed, louder now. Jvis regarded me a long moment, their eyes, too many pupils, studying my face like an artifact. Write her name, they said at last. On the wall, with an asterisk. The gallery erupted, some cheering, some furious, some whispering as if a taboo had cracked. I stood there, still half dizzy, the hum of the pod fading from my skull. Cole extended the stylus again, slower this time. I took it. Back in the north wing, the obsidian wall gleamed under sterile light. The crowd had already gathered. I knelt, found the line with my chalk letters from yesterday, and drew a small mark beside them. A star carved into darkness. Cole stood behind me. You do not comprehend the implications, they said quietly. I don't need to, I said. It's your wall. Not anymore. I turned, studying their unreadable face. So what happens next? Headmaster Chavez will decide. But know this, your kind's refusal to accept limits may be its greatest strength or its undoing. Maybe both, I said. The Hess cadet from before stood near the edge of the crowd. Their crest twitched once, a gesture I was starting to recognize as awe mixed with concern. As I passed, they murmured, You really tried to win. Correction, I said. I did win. When I walked away, the whispers followed, translated, mistranslated, multiplied, but underneath them all ran a single question the Academy hadn't asked in decades. What if the human was right? The asterisk gleamed behind me like an open wound that refused to close. By dawn, the rumor had spread beyond the Academy's walls. When I reached the mess hall, every conversation halted mid-sentence. Translators buzzed, auto-adjusting to new dialects as questions shifted from cafeteria gossip to interrogation. I'd broken a myth. People didn't know what to do with me now that the word impossible had a human footprint beside it. The Hess cadets were the boldest. One of them, Kretsch, leaned across my tray. You truly destroyed the vessel? Strategically, I said, and saved the colonists. The program has no record of survivors. It crashed before it could tally them. Then your proof is gone. I took a bite of something green that claimed to be eggs. So is the defeat. He stared, translator lagging half a beat behind, trying to process the idiom. Around us, whispers moved like wind through reeds. Asterisk, anomaly, glitch, heresy. By the time I finished breakfast, half the room was watching me eat as if defiance were contagious. At Aero 900, a summons pinged my slate. Headmaster Chavez, North Tower office. That was the highest point in the Academy, where the air thinned and the lights pulsed with ozone halos. The walk-up was long enough to think, and thinking didn't help. The obsidian wall flashed through my mind. My name with its new accessory, a tiny symbol that had rearranged hierarchies. One mark, and the Academy's most sacred lesson had cracked. Cole waited outside the office, posture perfect, 4 hands clasped behind their back. Headmaster expects civility, they said. Should I practice bowing? Humility would suffice. The door opened without a sound. Chvi sat behind a desk carved from one solid piece of refracted crystal. The walls shimmered faintly, projecting fragments of tactical histories, ships, battle diagrams, and simulation feeds looping endlessly. Sit, they said. The chair adjusted to my shape before I touched it. The sensation was unsettling, like being measured by invisible hands. You created a problem, Chavez began, voice calm, layered and musical in that unnerving Vin way. 17 cadets have filed requests to retake the Broken Gate scenario. 8 believe you proved it flawed. 9 see your asterisk as an insult to their species' record. I'd call that enthusiasm, I said. It's chaos, Chavez corrected. This academy depends on discipline, not debate. And your action saved simulated lives, undermined decades of pedagogical balance. Their pupils contracted and expanded like breathing. Tell me, Cadet Marks, why did you do it? Because you told me I couldn't. That is not an answer. Sure it is. You built a wall to commemorate failure, not to study it. You told generations they'd never win. Didn't like the math. Cole's mandibles clicked once. This is arrogance, not insight. No, I said quietly. This is curiosity with good timing. Chavez folded their hands. studying me the way scientists study an unfamiliar chemical. Beautiful, but possibly volatile. The broken gate exists for one reason: to teach acceptance of loss. Commanders must make decisions that cost lives. Without that discipline, entire fleets die. And if the discipline becomes obedience? I asked. Silence stretched between us, taut as cable. Chavez rose and gestured to the window. Beyond it, the academy grounds curved down into mist, dorm towers gleaming like teeth. Do you know how many cadets broke under that simulation? They asked. 47 across 2 decades. We keep it because their collapse taught us what kind of minds cannot lead. Maybe it just taught you what kind of minds refuse to die quietly, I said. Cole shifted, voice lower now. Human resilience borders on pathology. Resilience isn't pathology, I said. It's adaptation. Chavez turned, eyes narrowing. Then adapt to this. You will assist Instructor Cole in rebuilding the scenario. Make it exploit-proof. No loopholes, no creative shortcuts. Prove that you understand why your method should never work again. I stared. You want me to help fix the test I just beat? I want you to close the door you forced open, Chavez said. Or I'll reassign you to logistics, inventory management, requisition requests, water ration algorithms. Permanently. Cole's mandibles made the soft snick that meant approval. An equitable consequence, I exhaled slowly. Fine, I'll help. But you might not like what you learn. The simulation design lab smelled like hot circuitry and sleepless nights. Dozens of hollow screens floated above the central projection table, each showing different code layers of the Broken Gate program. It looked less like war and more like anatomy, the digital skeleton of despair. Cole stood across from me, 4 hands typing on separate panels. Explain your method, they said. Step by step, I laid it out. The communications array backdoor, the false reactor surge, the redirected point defense lasers. I stopped short of describing the feeling. That small moment when the impossible bent just enough to let hope through. Cole absorbed it all, eyes flicking in mechanical rhythm. The maintenance port will be patched easily. The reactor exploit requires rewriting the physics engine, which may affect every other simulation. So don't rewrite it, I said. Add a subroutine that flags deliberate core breaches as failure conditions. That is inelegant. That's practical. You're not training philosophers. You're training survivors. Cole's top right hand paused mid-gesture. Survival without discipline becomes chaos, and discipline without imagination becomes extinction. They stared for a long time before resuming their work. Hours passed. The lab lights shifted from white to amber as the day cycle aged. Code bloomed and collapsed in the air, lines of symbols cascading like digital rain. At some point, Chavez entered, silent as fog, observing without speaking. Cole finally said, Cadet Marks, you see systems differently. Why? Humans had to, I said. Back on Earth, we weren't the biggest or the fastest. We survived by breaking rules nature didn't write in stone. Fire, tools, language. Each one was a cheat code. Cheating implies dishonor, Cole said. Or innovation, I countered. Chavez's eyes flickered between us. And yet every innovation disrupts equilibrium. You understand what that means? Progress, I said. Usually messy. Precisely, they murmured. Which is why civilizations fear your species as much as they admire it. Cole's lower arms folded. Do you believe yourself exceptional, Cadet Marks? No, I said. I believe in patterns. Every system has one. You find the assumption it rests on and you shake it. Chavez nodded slowly. Then find ours. The command hung in the air like static. By the time we left the lab, the corridors had quieted. Night cycle made the academy eerie. Hallways pulsing with low blue light. Distant hum of air exchangers whispering in 16 accents of home. The obsidian wall waited in its alcove, polished and unbothered. My name still gleamed near the bottom, a lone asterisk marking defiance. Students drifted by, whispering. Some nodded with grudging respect. Others avoided my eyes. A few stopped to trace the symbol as if touching it might explain how failure had sprouted wings. Kretsch emerged from the shadows, carrying a data pad. They say you're redesigning the gate. Apparently I'm the repair crew, I said. They say they might delete the wall entirely if this continues. Maybe it's time. He studied me, crest flattening, You are not afraid they will erase you? Fear's useful, I said, but not as furniture. Kretsch looked at the wall, then back at me. Our species considers an asterisk shame. Mine considers it a footnote, I said. And every good story has one. Later in my quarters, I couldn't sleep. The simulation echoes still lived behind my eyes. Alarms, equations, the momentary silence after the ship broke apart. The Academy wanted me to fix what I'd exposed. But part of me wondered if the lesson was bigger than either of us. Maybe the wall wasn't just a warning. Maybe it was a mirror showing the Confederation its own limits. My slate chimed. A message from an anonymous address pulsed once, then displayed a single line. You didn't break the test. You proved it was broken, no signature, no trace. Outside, the Academy's night drones swept the campus in quiet arcs. In the distance, I could almost see the north wing glowing faintly, where my name and its asterisk kept catching the artificial light like a challenge. Tomorrow, Cole and I would start building the new version, an uncheatable, grief-proof, regulation-bound masterpiece, and I already knew I was going to break that one too. The simulation design lab was nothing like the rest of the Academy. Most halls hummed with disciplined order, perfect lines, polished stone, synchronized breathing of 17 atmospheres. The lab was chaos in digital form, glowing schematics floating in midair, code streaming in overlapping languages, and the sharp ozone tang of overheating processors. Instructor Cole stood at the center of it all, surrounded by projectors displaying the Broken Gate simulation's architecture, layer upon layer of logic pathways, feedback trees, and fail-safes. Their 4 arms moved independently, each manipulating a different interface panel. It looked like art, terrifying, efficient art. They didn't look up when I entered. You're late. By 30 seconds, I said, setting my slate down. That's early by human standards. Cole ignored that. We're rebuilding the scenario from the ground up. The headmaster wants it exploit-proof. Then you're going to need a bigger wall. One of their lower hands froze mid-motion. Explain. Every system has assumptions, I said. You can patch mine, but that just hides a new weakness somewhere else. Make it airtight and you strangle flexibility. I could build something impossible to hack, sure. But it would teach nothing. Cole's mandibles clicked once. That is not your decision to make. Then why am I here? The question hung in the lab's electric air. Eventually, one of their upper hands gestured toward a terminal. Start with your method. Demonstrate how you found the vulnerability. I began tracing the old pathways. The communication array's maintenance protocol. Legacy code with no security handshake. I bypassed the command verification, injected structured interference through the transmitters, and exploited AI behavior to mimic a reactor overload. Cole finished. Yes, sloppy engineering. Not sloppy, I said. Efficient. Someone just never thought like a criminal. Or a human, Cole murmured. That stung, though I didn't show it. You're welcome, I said. Hours passed in silence. The hum of cooling fans filled the room. Cole patched vulnerabilities with mechanical precision, while I drafted alternate branches in a secondary file. Ways to make the simulation adaptive, capable of countering pattern recognition instead of just punishing it. Midway through the 3rd cycle, the door slid open. A scaled hand held it there. Kretsch, the Hess cadet who'd been watching me since the wall incident, stepped inside with a cautious look. Headmaster sent me, he said. To assist. Cole barely turned. You failed this simulation twice. Precisely why I might help make it better, he replied. Cole's top right hand gestured toward an empty station. Fine, but stay out of Cadet Marx's code. Kretsch settled beside me, talons clicking faintly on the floor. They still talking about your asterisk, he said. Still arguing whether it's blasphemy or innovation. Depends who you ask. The Vin philosophers think it's symbolic evolution. The Tessic traditionalists want the wall sandblasted. Sounds like progress, I said. Kretsch leaned closer, studying the code lines on my screen. What are you doing there? Teaching the program to adapt. To what? Everything. By nightfall, the lab felt alive. Screens whispering, circuits glowing faintly beneath our boots. Cole finally paused, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. You propose an adaptive matrix, they said. Explain the goal. The old simulation's static. Same equation, same failure. If a cadet thinks outside the box, it crashes. That's lazy design. Real command decisions evolve mid-conflict. You want a simulation that rewrites itself, Cole said. Yes, every choice reshapes the next obstacle. No safe routine, no memorized solution. You can't brute force wisdom. Cole studied me for a long time. And what lesson does this new gate teach? That impossible isn't fixed, I said. It moves when you push it, they stared. For a Tessic, that was an emotional earthquake. And what of the lesson in humility? That's still there, I said softly. The system always wins, just not the way they expect. For once, Cole didn't argue. Over the next days, the project expanded. More cadets were assigned to the redesign, species from every corner of the Confederation. Chen, another human from the engineering track, joined first. They had the kind of calm focus that made everyone else look like they were improvising. Your exploit was elegant, Chen said during a coding break. But you left a recursion risk in the array loop. I know, I said. That's how I broke it. Accidentally? Accidentally on purpose, they grinned. You'd get along great with my instructor. He calls that creative negligence, Kretsch snorted from the other console. Humans and your optimism. You weaponize accidents. We call it improvisation, I said. Instructor Cole, overhearing, didn't look up. In the Tessic language, improvisation and disobedience share a root word. Figures, I muttered. You built a whole culture around straight lines. Cole's mandibles twitched in what I suspected was amusement. Straight lines reach destinations faster. Curved ones find better ones, I shot back. Weeks passed. The new broken gate evolved into something unrecognizable, a web of contingencies and responses. Every exploit triggered countermeasures. Every countermeasure opened subtler vulnerabilities. We weren't just designing a test anymore. We were building a conversation between failure and creativity. Late one evening, as we ran another stress test, Cole deactivated the main display and turned toward me. You tried conventional tactics first, didn't you? Before the exploit. The question caught me off guard. Yeah, for an hour. Ran through every approved protocol, every retreat strategy. Watched 5,000 people die 12 different ways. Why didn't you mention that in your report? Because the result didn't matter, I said quietly. Only the lesson did, Cole's voice softened. And what lesson was that? That dying well isn't the same as living badly. Kretsch glanced between us, uneasy. The lab seemed to hold its breath, humans, Cole murmured. Always redefining morality mid-conflict. Someone has to, I said. The universe doesn't come with instructions. The final iteration went live 3 weeks later. The first volunteer to test it was Chen. Cole insisted we observe from the gallery to see how our creation behaved in the wild. Chen entered the pod without ceremony. Lights dimmed. The simulation loaded. On the projection wall, the colony ship appeared again. Our familiar ghost, newly rebuilt. This time, when the enemy fleet materialized, the program adapted instantly to every pattern. When Chen attempted my old communication hack, the AI blocked it with counterintelligence subroutines. When they tried self-destruction, the pursuers predicted it. Chen lasted 90 minutes, longer than most cadets survived the original test. When the pod opened, they sat there breathing hard, eyes distant. Headmaster Chves approached. Cadet, what did you learn? Chen looked up, voice rough. That sometimes you can't win. You just choose what you're willing to lose. Chves nodded. Satisfactory. I watched Chen walk out, pale but steady. Cole turned to me. You see? The system works. It teaches acceptance, not rebellion. Maybe, I said, though my stomach disagreed. Or maybe it just teaches better rebellion. Cole's mandibles clicked again. Clarify. Now, instead of breaking the program by accident, someone will break it on purpose. It's just a matter of time. That night after everyone left, I stayed behind. The lab was silent except for the faint buzz of the powered-down projectors. I pulled up the new code, scrolling through thousands of lines. Buried inside, beneath layers of security, I added one more line. A tiny recursive loop disguised as diagnostic logging. Not a vulnerability. Not quite. If a cadet ever looked hard enough, thought sideways enough, they'd find it. A door, small and hidden, leading nowhere obvious. A whisper through the code. Keep going. Cole's voice startled me from behind. You're still here. Just reviewing. They watched me for a moment, unreadable. You understand why the headmaster wanted this locked down. I understand, I said. I just think sometimes the lesson shouldn't be that the door's closed. Maybe it's that the hinges still move. Cole tilted their head. You are dangerous, Cadet Marks. I get that a lot. They didn't reprimand me. Just turned toward the darkened projection and spoke softly. You humans exhaust logic, but you do make it evolve. When they left, I faced the empty lab, the code still pulsing faintly on the screens. The new broken gate was finished, or so everyone would believe. Outside, the academy's lights dimmed into the artificial dusk. The obsidian wall gleamed in the distance, reflecting back a single asterisk that refused to fade. And deep inside the system, behind new firewalls and sealed parameters, a quiet line of code waited, patient, unseen, alive. 3 weeks after Chen's trial, the Ashkari Strategic Academy stopped pretending that the asterisk was a footnote. It had become a movement. Cadets gathered in clusters across the mess halls, debating tactics like philosophers arguing theology. Half insisted the new broken gate proved the Confederation's doctrine of humility. The other half believed the simulation wasn't a test anymore. It was a war between creativity and control, and somehow I'd been drafted as its accidental general. Every time I crossed a corridor, whispers followed. That's her, the human who broke it twice. Others weren't whispers at all. The Vin students called me the outlier. The Tessic veterans muttered that I was the infection. Cole hated both labels. The headmaster called it pedagogical turbulence. I was halfway through my protein ration when the message arrived. North Tower, immediately. The office hadn't changed since my last lecture there. Same crystalline desk. Same filtered air that smelled faintly of ozone and judgment. Cole stood at one side of the room. 2 other instructors flanked Chves, a Tessic from Advanced Combat Doctrine and something aquatic whose translator hummed like a bass note through the air. Cadet Marks, Chves said. How many back doors did you embed in the new broken gate scenario? I froze. Define backdoor. Exploitable vulnerabilities left intentionally to allow creative cadets to subvert parameters, the Tessic said. 23, I admitted, but only 12 are functional. The rest are decoys to waste time. Cole's upper eyes closed briefly, like someone feeling a headache spread. The aquatic instructor burbled, and its translator rendered in an even, mechanical tone. This one finds the human's deception structurally elegant, like a predator species creating false trails for prey. Chves inclined their head. Indeed, you created a secondary pedagogy. Cadets who chase the decoys learn frustration. Those who find the true paths learn persistence. I hesitated. So, I'm not expelled? Cole answered for them. You are promoted. Assistant scenario designer, paid stipend. Continuation through graduation. My brain short-circuited. You're rewarding me for breaking your system? Chves's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. Every major academy in Confederation history evolves the same way. Institutions build walls. Students find the cracks reveal truth. The aquatic instructor nodded, its gills fluttering like silver ribbons. The shell that cannot be broken cannot grow. The weeks that followed were chaos disguised as progress. The Academy's once stoic rhythm fractured into creative pandemonium. My design lab became a second campus. Cadets and instructors trading theories, writing exploits, rewriting defenses, then breaking them again. Cole called it controlled entropy. I called it education finally worth the name. Data poured in. The Vin students exploited AI logic gaps through philosophical paradoxes. The Hess cadets discovered how to manipulate enemy psychology through fake surrenders. The Tessic identified structural flaws in military logic, patterns too rigid to anticipate lateral attacks. And then there were the humans. They didn't just find exploits. They created new systems inside the system. One cadet, Torres from astrogation theory, found a way to manipulate the simulation's quantum timing. He discovered that the simulation core ran on entangled architecture. By querying certain variables rhythmically, he tricked the system into believing there were multiple copies of him across scenarios. He called it parallel decision bleeding. In short, he broke time. Cole nearly short-circuited. 3 days later, I was summoned again. Javis's office lights pulsed brighter than usual, emergency-level brightness. We had to rebuild the entire simulation grid, they said. Torres's discovery destabilized the core algorithms. The damage cost the equivalent of a small starship. I swallowed a laugh. You said we were here to teach creativity. We are, but you've turned the academy into an arms race, Cole added. We're studying results. Species cluster by exploit type. Humans find everything, and then they find things we didn't know existed. Because we assume rules exist to be tested, I said. Chavez rose. You will continue your research. Form a design group for 3 new scenarios: tactical command, diplomacy, and crisis response. Each must contain intentional exploits and legitimate lessons beneath them. So do you want me to keep breaking things? We want you to teach others how, Chavez said. Within reason. Cole's mandibles clicked sharply. There will be oversight, no more recursive paradoxes. I grinned. Define oversight. Cole gave me a look that could have frozen plasma. Do not make me regret this, Marks. The new lab team formed in less than a week. Chen came back, citing curiosity and mild masochism. Torres joined, promising to behave. Kretsch applied for cross-species collaboration credits, though I suspected he just enjoyed the spectacle. Even a Vin joined, Lursha, whose composure could make silence sound judgmental. We started with the Diplomat's Gambit, a scenario designed to teach restraint, patience, and cultural understanding. Naturally, I buried 40 hidden pathways inside it. 15 were recursive traps that punished overconfidence. One, just one, was a genuine win route that required doing absolutely nothing for 15 minutes while the simulation resolved itself. Kretsch read the code and laughed until his scales rattled. You're teaching paranoia. I'm teaching discernment, I said. Knowing when not to act is its own kind of strategy. Cole observed from the back, mandibles clicking softly. You are weaponizing hesitation. Exactly. By midterm, the Academy's statistics had shifted. Psychological withdrawals dropped by 20%. Simulation success rates rose across species, but so did disciplinary reviews for creative interpretation of orders. Cadets stopped memorizing doctrine and started questioning it. The cafeteria debates turned into seminars. Professors began attending. One evening, I found Chavez watching from the gallery as cadets ran a scenario stress test. The room's glass reflected the flicker of multiple simulations. Ships burning, alliances failing, negotiations collapsing into peace. You've changed the institution, Chavez said without turning. Good or bad, I asked. Yes, I waited for elaboration. None came. Headmaster, I said. The asterisk, what does it mean now? It means adaptability, they said. It means chaos that teaches, but it also means we have lost control. Control is overrated, I said. Spoken like someone who has never commanded a fleet, they replied. But perhaps that's why you must. The next day, Cole cornered me in the corridor. You understand this can't continue unchecked. The Vin Council is demanding oversight. They fear humans will unmake every simulation in the curriculum. I didn't teach destruction, I said. I taught flexibility. They see no difference. Then maybe they shouldn't teach strategy. Cole's eyes hardened. You are too comfortable standing at the edge of insubordination. I smiled. That's where the view's best. For a moment, something almost like pride flickered across their face. Your species, they said quietly, will either save this confederation or set it on fire. Maybe both, I said. We're good multitaskers. When the day's cycle dimmed to the Academy's simulated dusk, I walked to the north wing alone. The obsidian wall gleamed beneath the corridor lights, polished by centuries of shame and ambition. My name was no longer alone. 22 others now bore the same tiny symbol beside theirs, an asterisk glowing faintly, like a constellation newly forming. Humans, Hess, Tessic, even a Vin. The column beside them read, Parameter breach. Consult faculty. Students still came here at night to stare, to argue, to hope. Some thought the asterisk meant dishonor. Others saw it as proof that impossible was a suggestion, not a fact. I touched the stone, cold, smooth, unyielding. "You're running out of space," I murmured. A voice behind me said, "Perhaps we'll build a second wall." Cole stepped from the shadows, their silhouette reflecting the wall's faint glow. "Not for failures this time," I said. "For evolution." Cole nodded slowly. "You've infected the curriculum, even the headmaster admits it. The academy will never be the same." "Good. You realize this legacy isn't clean," they said. "Every lesson costs something." "I know. What did it cost you?" I thought about it for a long time. "The luxury of certainty." Cole's mandibles clicked, a sound I'd learned to read as approval. "Welcome to command, Cadet Marks." That night I returned to my quarters and sat in the dark, watching the data feed of current simulation stats scroll across my slate. Failures still outnumbered victories by a wide margin. But now, for every failure, there was a note beside it. Attempted parameter breach detected. Review pending. They weren't just losing anymore. They were learning how to fight the structure itself. The asterisk had become contagious, and the academy, for all its obsidian walls and polished discipline, was finally starting to breathe. The morning began with silence, the kind that meant something had changed. No announcements, no drills, no briefing tone pulsing through the intercom. Just quiet, heavy as gravity. The academy didn't do quiet. It preferred structure and rhythm. But that morning, silence had replaced protocol. When I reached the simulation wing, the doors were sealed. Inside, the projection halls were dark except for the faint pulse of emergency lights. Cole stood near the console, arms folded, eyes reflecting the glow. "Another crash?" I asked. "No," they said. "Something stranger." A cadet from the VIN contingent passed the diplomat's gambit. I blinked. "Passed it?" "Technically. That shouldn't be possible." "Indeed," Cole said, mandibles flexing. "They succeeded by doing nothing." I remembered the hidden lesson I'd buried deep in that scenario, the patience route that rewarded inaction. So someone finally found it. "They waited 42 minutes, Cole said. Said they chose observation over interference. The system interpreted that as optimal diplomacy. And now? Now the council wants to know why a test designed by humans rewards passivity." I couldn't help smiling. Because for once someone realized silence can win. Cole's upper eyes fixed on me. "You've turned pedagogy into paradox." "Or balance," I said. By noon, the administrative summons arrived. Headmaster Chves, immediate assembly. The central hall wasn't built for debate. It was built for verdicts. Tiered seating, crystalline acoustics, and a dais that turned speakers into silhouettes framed by light. Nearly every instructor and senior cadet attended. The obsidian wall loomed at the back like an uninvited witness. Chves addressed the room with calm precision. As of this morning, the diplomat's gambit recorded its first complete success. The scenario registered a non-intervention resolution, an outcome never achieved before. We are here to determine what that means. A murmur rippled across the hall. The VIN delegation looked proud. The TESIC officers looked offended. Humans predictably looked like they were trying not to smirk. Cole stepped forward first. The scenario functioned as designed. It evaluated decision integrity across multiple ethical variables. The cadet met the criteria through restraint. A TESIC instructor interrupted, voice sharp as flint. "Restraint is not victory. It is cowardice disguised as philosophy." Chves gestured for calm. "Perhaps Cadet Marks can clarify." Dozens of eyes turned to me. I hadn't planned a speech, but the words came naturally. "When we built the gambit," I said, "we wanted a test that didn't just punish impulsiveness. Most simulations reward aggression. Solve the problem fast, eliminate the threat, assert control. But real diplomacy isn't control, it's patience. Sometimes the right move is no move." The TESIC's mandibles flared. "You confuse hesitation with wisdom." "Only if you've never been wrong," I said. The room went still. Even the air processors seemed to hesitate. Chves' pupils shifted, contracting into slits of focus. "So the lesson, Cadet Marks, is humility?" "The lesson," I said, "is perspective. The broken gate taught everyone how to fail nobly. The new simulations teach them how to think differently. You wanted cadets who follow orders. I built cadets who ask why those orders exist. Cole's lower hands tightened slightly, but they didn't interrupt. After the hearing, Chavez summoned me privately. The headmaster's office looked different now. The once sterile glass walls were lined with holographic commendations from multiple military branches, including Earth's Defense Command. "You've changed the academy," Chavez said quietly. "You understand that?" "I'm aware it's louder than usual. They call it the Asterisk Era," Chavez said. "Every other day a cadet breaches a parameter. The wall has doubled in size to accommodate new entries. The tradition that once defined discipline now celebrates disobedience. Maybe discipline needed competition," I said. "Or maybe you've taught them to mistake rebellion for insight." "I didn't teach rebellion," I said. "I taught curiosity. It's just louder." Chavez studied me for a long time. "You remind me of an old parable from my world. The first scholar who questioned the stars was praised. The second was tolerated. The third was exiled for asking why the stars stayed. Which one changed astronomy?" I asked. That made them smile, barely. "You will continue your work," they said. "But you must learn containment. Chaos needs borders, or it consumes itself. Then I'll build smarter borders." Over the next month, the Academy's atmosphere transformed. Simulations no longer terrified cadets. They challenged them. Debriefings became laboratories of ideas. Even TESIC instructors began adopting variable doctrine drills, testing how much flexibility a commander could show before failure. Cole and I supervised it all. We didn't agree on philosophy, but we had built an efficient partnership, structure and subversion orbiting the same gravity. One night, while reviewing data feeds, Cole asked without looking up, "Do you regret it?" "Regret what?" "Starting this cascade." I thought about it. The sleepless nights, the arguments, the stares, the way every hallway conversation now ended with, "What would the human do?" "No," I said finally. "You?" "I regret that it works," they said. "The Academy is evolving faster than its architects. That rarely ends cleanly." "Nothing important does," I said. The turning point came quietly. A Vin research ship at the edge of Confederation space went dark. "Pirate interference," rumor said. The distress signal reached the Academy by accident, an old frequency the simulations still used for training. Chavez ordered a remote command exercise, simulate a rescue under real-time conditions. Cole ran logistics. I managed tactics. 50 cadets, 6 species, 1 combined effort. It should have been routine. It wasn't. Halfway through the operation, the transmission cut out. Our data feeds froze. For 3 minutes we were blind. Then the signal returned, but it wasn't a simulation anymore. It was live footage. The research ship, engines crippled, surrounded by hostile vessels. Real pirates. Real people. Cole's hand stopped midair. "This is not an exercise." "Too late," I said. "We're already running it." Chavez's voice came through the comms. "Continue the operation. Treat it as field application. This is your doctrine's test." Cadets panicked, shouting conflicting commands across frequencies. Every instinct screamed to intervene. Attack, disable, rescue. But the more they acted, the worse the situation got. Hostile ships adjusted, anticipating every move. "Cut the offensive protocols," I ordered. "Pull back transmissions. Observe." Cole turned toward me sharply. "You're suggesting non-intervention?" "I'm suggesting we stop pretending we're omniscient." For 4 minutes, we did nothing. Just listened. Through the static, a single voice emerged. Vin crew coordinating an internal repair sequence. The pirate's sensors had lost lock-on when our signals went silent. The ship reignited its engines and slipped into FTL before the hostiles recalibrated. The gallery erupted in noise, relief, shock. Some even applauded. Cole exhaled through all 4 lungs. "You did it again." "No," I said. "They did. We just stopped getting in their way." The next morning, a new inscription appeared on the obsidian wall, not etched by order, but projected holographically across its surface. Javis's voice carried through the halls. "Every rule exists until the world demands another." Below it, my name remained where it had always been, still marked by that single asterisk. But now the space beside it had changed. 23 others glowed there, and under them a new heading. Parameter breach, consult for innovation. Kretsch found me standing there hours later. They've started calling the wall the Archive of Exceptions, he said. Has a nice ring to it. Better than Hall of Failures. Cole joined us, their presence tall and quiet. Headmaster approved 3 new scenario designs. You'll lead one. Which one? Cole handed me the file. First contact protocols. I opened it. Blank template. No rules yet. Just potential. Let me guess, I said. You want me to build one that can't be broken? Cole's mandibles curved in what might have been a smile. No, build one worth breaking. That night, I walked the north wing alone. The corridors glowed faintly blue, alive with energy and echoes. The air smelled of metal, coolant, and promise. When I reached the wall, I ran my fingers over the surface. Cold as ever, but beneath it I could feel the vibration of change, like something alive beneath glass. The academy had started as a place that worshipped failure as discipline. Now it treated failure as data, rebellion as theory, and the asterisk as a badge of evolution. Doors are meant to open, I whispered. Even the unbreakable ones. The wall gave no answer. But its reflection showed movement, light spreading across names, growing brighter, as if the monument itself had learned how to breathe. Behind me, the stars outside the viewport flared, each one a promise of the next test waiting to be rewritten. And somewhere deep in the Academy's servers, a single line of dormant code I'd left long ago blinked awake. Just a pulse, a heartbeat, a reminder. The system learns because we do. The era of asterisks had just begun. The north wing hummed like a machine that had learned to breathe. Thin blue lines traced the atmospheric regulators along the ceiling, modulating pressure and chemistry for 17 species without anyone suffocating or exploding. Signs hung in 6 scripts and 2 sets of pictograms. I caught myself translating automatically, old exam habit, while my new boots clicked across slate tiles polished to a mirror. I was 14 minutes late. I'd gotten lost hunting for a bathroom that didn't require tentacles to operate. The directory had a friendly little icon, a coiled flourish that looked innocent until you met the door. I found a human-compatible stall 3 corridors later, jogged back and walked straight into a crowd thick as a market line. They'd gathered around a wall that drank the light and gave nothing back. Obsidian floor-to-ceiling, laser-smooth. From a distance, it looked unmarked. Up close, the etchings appeared, rows upon rows of names cut into the stone in scripts as different as the bodies drifting through the hall. Under the top molding, the inscription, "The Broken Gate," attempted not conquered. 847 names. Date stamps, species sigils. Someone had polished the surface so precisely the letters seemed to float just under the skin of the rock. "What's the funeral for?" I asked. A Hess cadet looked up at me, scaled, narrow pupils, translator bead blinking at the corner of their jaw. Their crest rose and fell before the device clicked to life. Not funeral, courtesy. The simulation that breaks you is announced in advance. Less cruel that way. That the famous Broken Gate? I asked. Yes, they said. You will learn. It teaches wisdom, withdrawal, acceptance. Sounds like surrender with a diploma. The bead hesitated, then rendered, coward's philosophy. The Hess tilted their head. My device struggles with your tone. Everyone's does, I said. A ripple moved through the crowd. The space in front of the wall cleared as if pushed by weather. Instructor Cole stepped into view, forearms folded with the geometry of a ceremony I didn't know yet. Tessic, 3 meters of obsidian plates catching the light, face red through angles and mandible ticks instead of expressions. Cadet, Cole said. Their voice used 4 vocal chambers to harmonize a single word. You are late to orientation. Bathroom detour, I said. Sir, instructor is sufficient. Cole gestured with a lower hand toward the names. Do you understand what you are seeing? Records of failure, I said. Neatly archived, a lesson etched for posterity. This scenario has broken cadets from 14 species. 3 required medical intervention for trauma. There is no physical harm in the program, only command decisions. Cole's eyes, faceted, depthless, settled on me. No cadet has ever passed. Underestimation is a gift. My father taught me that on hikes where he let me choose the wrong trail, and waited without comment as I marched us into dead ends. Learn your way out. Don't whine. When you return to the fork, you'll remember the ground. What is the scenario? I asked. You will encounter it when assigned, Cole said. Do not cultivate heroic fantasies. The purpose is to train recognition of untenable positions. Command requires accepting loss without paralysis. And if someone finds a way through, there isn't one. I stepped closer to the stone. The names stretched decades deep. The Tessic entries were the thickest band. Honor-bound tacticians meeting a locked door, with straight-line effort until it shattered them. The Vin scripts had elegant loops that made my eyes want to slow down. Humans were rare. 4 entries, all failures, stamped across 38 years of membership in this confederation. 2 voluntary withdrawals. 1 expulsion for brewing alcohol in the hydroponics bay. 1 decorated service posting that the rumor net described as unconventional, tolerated. The wall was supposed to frighten me. It worked, briefly. Then I felt the old heat, quiet, focused, the kind that dries sweat instead of making more of it. You have chalk? I said. A murmur went through the half-circle. Someone hissed in a language like rain. Another cadet's translator whispered, arrogance display. Cole's mandibles clicked once. Hard to read whether that was irritation or amusement. They unsnapped a white marking stylus from a belt slot and held it out. This will be educational. For me or for you? Yes, Cole said. The stylus was heavier than I expected. Ceramic with a fine point, the kind of tool you didn't lend to people who shook. I didn't. Human hands are built to throw and grip. Calligraphy, optional. I scratched Van marks under the last etched line. The letters blocky and rude beside the flowing call of a Vin name above it. No flourish. No asterisk. Not yet. I stepped back, handed the stylus across 2 meters of charged air. The crowd's hum tightened into something sharp. Bets began like they always begin. Quietly at first and then loud when someone made the opening line too insulting. Translators caught the rhythm and spilled it, 2 minutes before withdrawal. Psych break in first phase. Humans don't understand loss. Their wars prove it. Schedule me, I said. Cole didn't look away from the fresh chalk. Tomorrow, 0600. After morning drills, simulation wing, eat and sleep beforehand. Eat again afterward. I'll bring a toothbrush, I said. Bring humility. I'll see if it fits in the bag. Cole pivoted with a soldier's precision. The crowd folded around them as they left, a current re-establishing itself. The Hess cadet from before stayed at my elbow, crest flattening, posture almost apologetic. You know the content, they said. Civilians. Children, if your species has that category. The math is designed to fail. You cannot save them. The point of the lesson is to accept that, I said. Yes, grace in defeat. Grace is good, I said. Defeat is optional. They stared, translator trying to render exasperation and settling for static. You will attempt to win, they said. I will attempt to not lose, I said. Subtle difference. It is genuinely impossible. Everything is until it isn't. I left the wall. Orientation had already dispersed. The briefings would be on my slate by nightfall with 3 dozen alerts about forms I'd filled out poorly. The corridor turned twice before offering a window. Outside, the campus climbed a basalt ridge and wrapped itself in reflective glass, each panel flashing a different sky. Ships drifted on the far horizon, fat and slow, their wakes combing the upper air into ribbons. Somewhere beneath us, the simulators pulsed in their nests, waiting to make someone cry. By the time I found the human bathrooms again, the ones installed after, I'd been told that famous hydroponics incident. The rumor tide had outrun me. 2 cadets peeled off a conversation as I approached, eyes bright with the relief of something to talk about, besides oxygen budgets and ethics exams. You wrote your name? One asked, translator pinning my vowels like butterflies. I did, I said. Why? The other asked, blunt and clean. To remove suspense, I said. I prefer a hard appointment to a soft dread. The stall locked with a simple touch. No tentacles, no puzzle. I splashed water on my face until the light behind my eyes cooled. On the mirror, someone had etched a tiny asterisk with a fingernail. It caught the bathroom LEDs and threw a needle of brightness straight at me. Back in the corridor, I slowed and let the academy wash over me. Smells of coolant, ozone, disinfectant, 6 sorts of skin oil, and the faint copper tang of a species whose blood oxidized green. Voices layered. Stone-grind Hess, bell-toned Vin, clickburst Tessic, braiding into a music the translators could only flatten. The architecture held it like a lung. My slate pinged, a schedule drop. Simulation, Broken Gate 0600. Instructor Cole, supervising. Footnote, eat, hydrate, post-attempt counseling available by appointment. I thumbed the acknowledgement. My hands were steady. On the way back through the north wing, I passed the wall again. A new group had gathered. They were pointing at the bottom line where my name sat alone in chalk. Too white against the black. Too human among the carved permanents. A Cadet turned as I approached. Irises like polished stone. Voice low enough the translator purred instead of spoke. You understand, this is not a stage for your species, they said. Every place is a stage, I said. Most of us just forget to perform. Performing will not save anyone in there. Then I'll improvise. A Tessic across the circle made a small gesture with their bottom right hand. I didn't know the sign, but I understood the weight. Be quiet and watch. The wall was a tool, and tools shaped hands. This one had planed generations of ambition into a neat plank of humility. It had also become a dare. I placed my palm against the stone, cold, perfectly smooth. If you held your breath, you could imagine the surface warming under your skin, accepting you. It didn't. It refused. That helped. Tomorrow, I said, not bothering to keep my voice down. The Hess from before angled close. If you break, they said softly, leave the chair. Do not try to brave your way beyond the pain. That is how minds are damaged.